Greetings, everyone. This morning we're going to talk about building empires or creating wealth for not just yourself, but for your next generation. In our community, we consider a car, a name brand card, as wealth or a symbol of wealth. When you know that as soon as you drive that car off the parking lot, it depreciates. And many of us feel that if we live in the most beautiful neighborhood, ain't nothing wrong with that, because that's a requirement for me. But you live in a nice neighborhood and you're paying rent that is the same as paying mortgage. You consider you're living the good life. When you're living on credit, and it doesn't matter how good your credit is, if you're not using that credit to build wealth, then you are a joke. We're not taught these things. So we're taught mathematics, but not in a way that we learn how to create wealth for ourselves and for our next generation. We make the excuses and, sometimes feel like victims. And though we are often victimized, we still have to find a way to do what the other folks have done, where they take that lemon and turn it into a lemonade. And so you'll see folks in worse off situations than yourself. And what you see them do with that lemon is just no short of a miracle. So I found myself in terrible financial situations, embarrassing financial situation. And a lot of that was due to me always taking on other person's issues as if it's my own. You got a problem? Come tell it to me. And it wasn't just share your burdens with me in terms of emotionally. It was like, as soon as you have an issue and it requires money, come to me. And even if I don't have it, I will find it. That was the attitude. And it was a terrible attitude to have, because not only was I ruining myself financially, I was ruining my children's future. And what I learned was the folks that I felt needed me, they did not. They didn't need me. I needed them. Because what I was doing is trying to build equity in people, and that is impossible. People are not collateral. You can't go to the bank and say, this is my collateral, give me a loan. And I think we have to shift our mindset now, so we understand that wealth creation is a must. Most of the problems you're having and the disrespect we have in this world is because we have no wealth, no true wealth. Now, wealth, of course, is health, but we don't have that either, because we spend so much time stressing over all kinds of things in the world, all kinds of things in our private lives, and it prevents us from being stronger mentally, emotionally, psychologically, all of the alleys you want to walk down, we are broken. So, in spite of that brokenness, though, when you look on Instagram and any of the other social platforms, you see a lot of people stunting, living the high life. And those who don't understand this thing waste time watching these people's lives, their high-end apartment that they don't own, their name brand clothing that they can't afford, which often sits on credit. We've all been there. Now, I've never been a designer brand type of person. I like nice things and it doesn't matter what name is on it. But I made foolish financial decisions that cost me, that affected me. And now I'm asking the young people, your credit is very important. Without it, you can't rent a place, you can't buy a car, and you can't invest. See, the first things I mentioned to you are not stuff that help you build wealth. They're not. Now, when the bank gives you a credit card, they're not trying to help you build wealth either. Because if it was so, you'd be able to take the money from your credit card and use it to invest in property, for example, without having to pay huge amount of interest as a transfer. So what you're allowed to do with credit is to, buy clothes and maybe travel and eat out. Nothing that is going to help you to create wealth. But when you put your money in the bank, they're using your money to create wealth. I shared with you before that there are people who would buy stocks and bonds that were going to be matured in 30 or 40 or 50 years. That's a long-term goal. But a lot of us, we have these short-term gains and we ignore the long-term plans. Now, for example, and I'm not saying everyone is in a position where they can do this, but imagine if you could save $192 per week for a month. Multiply that by 4 and see what that is. And if you do that by the month, calculate 192 times 4 and see what that is. And then you're going to multiply that by 12 and you're going to be at over $9,000. And if you multiply that by 5 years, if you're so disciplined, you're having over $47,000. Now, for one person, that might be difficult. But if you're married and you still have children living at home who are married, it's a collective effort. That kind of saving is no big deal for 4 persons, even 4 friends that you could trust. The idea is to understand that if you come together, even in a small group, you would be surprised to see what you could do with a small amount of money. The wealth creation, the mind of building wealth is very, very important. People are careful the way they handle people with money. So, it's not the end all and be all of all things, but it certainly help you, in getting through a lot of doors. And how you get your money is really no problem or no business of mine, because I do plan to play some excerpts with you today. Listen to government officials in Jamaica. I don't know if I should say bragging but they're talking about the scandals that the 2 parties have been in. And none of these guys are in jail. So every so often you want to come out and you want to tell people, be upright and be moral and be just. But when you look closely, the ones who are most corrupt are the ones who you look to and respect. Why? Because they got money. Because you can see that a lot of them are very shady. You can see that. It's clear as crystal. And we still respect these ones because of what they have. Now, I'm not saying that is right. It's not about right or wrong here. We're talking about building wealth, having that mind set where you want more than what your mom or your dad had. Nothing is wrong with that attitude. You want better for your children. You should want better for your children, especially when you are a person of color. You have to want more because the struggles you go through in life, you really should try to avoid those things for your children. Now, you can't change certain attitudes, but you certainly, need to be fortified in such a way that you have the ability to stand up and resist. And money plays a very crucial role. Now, if you're a coffee drinker, imagine how much money you spend per week, or you don't have to imagine, calculate how much money you spend per week on coffee, when all you needed to do was buy yourself a thermos and buy yourself some ground coffee and make that coffee and bring it with you in your thermos. And those of you who eat out a lot, imagine how much money you could save. Now this crisis that we're in right now shows you how much money you spend on garbage and how much money you could have saved, because I'm sure you would notice, or at least I hope you would notice how much you save, how much money you save from not being able to go out to the mall and to buy junk that you're just going to throw in your closet, to go in your mall and buy makeup and jewelry and things that you'll never use or wear. And all that money could have been gone towards, investing in something like real estate. At the beginning of the video, I was showing you a house that was sold, and we need to stop just desiring something to put in our belly, a place to sleep, and clothes to wear. That is the mindset of the poor. Once you want more than just that, food, clothes, and shelter, you're going to see yourself opening doors that will allow you to grow financially. Listen, people don't value individuals that have nothing. Those of us who understand that the value is not in the money and what you own, understand that's not right, it's not good. But who cares about what's right and good and what's just in this world? So you have to position yourself in a way where you can at least have a voice. You have a voice, and the only way to really have a voice is to think different from the crowd and not watch other persons what they're doing. Be comfortable in your skin. Be comfortable with having less so you can have more. We're talking about short-term pain, long-term gains. Because being broke ain't nothing cute about that. You get some liberties taken with you when you're broke. Nobody cares about you and your stories and your hard luck stories. But when you got, that wealth, all of a sudden, we know that these people are fake, but they turn up and, someone said, I don't care if the friends are fake. When I got money, I can use them to do whatever I want them to do. And that sounds very cynical, but it's true. I was in a situation and I had to go on a very strict budget. And in 3 months, what I was able to accomplish was short of a miracle. For 3 months, one of the first things I stopped doing was getting my nails done. That stuff adds up, because if you're getting a mani-pedi, you're looking at $60 if there's a discount. $60. And a mani-pedi, how long can that last? 2 weeks? And if you're wearing fake nails, forget it. After a week and a half, your hand is a mess. Those of you who wear fake lashes and you want the more permanent looking ones, that stuff adds up over $100. And you're doing that a lot. And you're looking like $1 million, but you're broke. You can't pay your rent. You can't buy food for your children. And, you have nothing set aside for yourself, for them, for crisis like the one that we're going through now. And here's the thing. Now that we see that we don't have to get the nails done because there's no one to do it, or the hair done, or the brows done, or the lashes done, ladies, you're finding that these things are not that important, are they? You're living with it. To be honest with you, I'm talking about myself as well. Can't getting my eyebrows done, looking a mess. And those of you who get your hair done often, but after a while it doesn't matter, because we all look crappy. And so you accept that. But when this is over, take something away from it. Take something away from the fact that we oftentimes put ourselves in positions of grandeur, and it doesn't serve us in the long term. Who cares if my eyebrow is a mess or I'm wearing a unibrow at the moment if I got money stacked up in my bank account? If I'm able to make money moves, to make investments that are going to allow me to live more comfortable, but more important, to allow my children to have choices that I never had. I've had periods in my life where I've sat down people and I said, listen, we can't continue living like this when we are a community, because every household is the first community. We are a community. What are we doing with our money? Now, when you have teenagers or you have young adults, Amazon is their thing, it's their place, their playground, and so they find themselves buying things. Sometimes I see these boxes coming in and these packages coming in one hour, sometimes every day. And when I look, I see them tossed in a corner. Just buy it for the sake of buying. And I would say, are you kidding me? Do you know what you could do with that type of money? As a young person, as a young lady, it's time for you to step up and be a boss. Be a boss lady. And that money that you're spending on these nonsense is stuff that you could be investing. We're not taught that. We are not told that. And many of us sit here watching people's lives, their fake lives, not realizing that if you focus on what is important, you could really do some awesome things in your life and your family's life. Trust me, being in debt is not pretty, especially if you're someone who, don't like owing money. If you're the type of person when you owe money, it just stresses you out and you feel terrible and you get all depressed, and you find yourself in that hole. You figure, I can't dig myself out. Sometimes you can't dig yourself out. Sometimes you have to, learn from that mistake and not be too hard on yourself, of course. And you do the thing. Sometimes bankruptcy is the root. But you learn from that experience. And you say, once I get over this, I'm going to be more fiscally responsible. Because if you're giving away something that you don't have for yourself, then that's cheating yourself, and that's being very stupid. To a certain extent, I find that sometimes when I hear some hard luck stories, it still gets to me. But I don't borrow from myself to give to anybody. I could still be in a position where it's my last and I share that, but I no longer borrow. I can't borrow from the bank to give to somebody. I'm not helping that person. I'm creating a dependency and I'm destroying myself. So I want you to look at the areas in your life where you spend money, and when you can be honest with yourself and say, that's a waste. So many years if you cut back, and where you eat, how you're eating out, what you're buying. You're not impressing anybody when you're old and you don't have a pension, because a lot of us have to be saving for our own pension. It's not like back in the day when you were guaranteed to get a pension. It's not like that anymore. And when you look back, you wasted all these years. It's so easy. $25. I remember at one point I was saving $25 a week in a tax-free saving, and I was shocked to see how fast that grew. Effortless. So I'm not preaching, I'm just speaking from experience. And simple mistakes, for example, living somewhere and breaking a lease could put you in financial ruin. So it's not everyone who gets into financial ruin is careless. You can have a loan, any kind of loan, and because you get ill and you can't work anymore, there goes your credit, there goes your savings, and so on and so forth. We get it. But we have to have plans that see the unforeseen future or circumstances. We can't do it, people. We can. I still struggle hearing someone talk about their needs without feeling that it's my business. It's not my business, and I still struggle. Sometimes I try to change the conversation because I don't want to go down that route anymore, because people don't need you. Nobody needs you. You know, it's an illusion to walk around thinking people need you. You have to take care of yourself first. Invest. Now, I'm from Jamaica, and nobody knows it better than us Jamaicans, how when people think you got nothing, they treat you like ish. When they realize that, you know, you have nothing to give them, they don't want to see you. So you're not just doing it for them, really. You're really doing it for yourself, because it's not a nice feeling to share love and whatever it is with folks, thinking that, you know, at least they'll be loyal to you and they love you. And you find out that they couldn't care less. Money is power. It really is. It is power. And having it is one thing, but holding it and transforming that penny into millions, that takes true skills. I'm going to end with this story. I was working at some financial place, and there's a guy, a courier, who used to come with, of course, he bring things from the different banks and so on. And every morning I would see him when I'm that on the early morning shift. I would see this guy, and every time he's just looking down. He's just walking and looking down on the ground, and he would stop, and when he would stop, I would watch him pick up pennies. And that man was able to save millions. And people saw him, you know, walking and delivering these packages to different banks and underestimate him. And he was a very wealthy man. He was actually just doing that just for the sake of doing it. I guess he probably did it as a young man, and he continued doing it. Be smart with the way you're spending your money. Stop watching out other people's life and watching what they're doing. And if it's possible, while you're building, you remain quiet. Because it's nice to see who your real friends are. And when people underestimate you, the more people, you know, try to make you feel like you're nothing, the more you're doing your money moves. You're being very serious with what you do, because when you see some of the persons who try to show off on you, show you all their fancy stuff that they got, and at the end of the day, they're in debt, and the stuff that they have can't be transferred or translated into cash. And if they get sick or one unfortunate situation happen in their life, that's it. We've all been there, and we can't continue to have excuse that, oh, I'm not rich, I wasn't born with a gold spoon. The majority of the most wealthy people in the world, they weren't born with gold spoon. Of course, you know, a lot of them are crooks, but we're not talking about those ones. We're talking about people who build from the ground up, who said, I'm going to be fiscally responsible, and I'm not about that life. I'm not going to stunt out here. Meantime, some of these, have you ever seen some of these girls? Oh my goodness, they're so beautiful. But if you go to their home, there's no food. Thing to sustain them and keep them healthy. No food in their household, because they're busy, you know, keeping up with appearances. That's it for now. I'm doing my walk and trying to stay healthy, wealthy, and wise. Stay blessed, everyone.